When I graduated college, I had a ton of student debt. I had private loans, I had car loans. I was overwhelmed and confused as to what to pay off first and if I should even pay off the debt. Should I be saving to invest the money instead? I was confused and I needed clarity. That's why I'm making this video for any of you that are in that situation right now. I was brought up with the mentality that debt is bad no matter what. Try to pay it off as quickly as possible with all that you can do. So that's what I thought was the right approach. And sometimes that is the right approach, but that's not always the right approach. And all debt is not bad debt. What I learned is that there are some debts that help you make more money and increase your wealth. And by doing that, you can accelerate the rate that you pay off those bad debts. So what I'm saying to you is, if you use debt such as a home mortgage, and that mortgage is on a rental property that's producing for you cash flow every single month, and one day you sell that property and you gain money from that sale, that's considered good debt. And that money could help you pay off your bad debts, which are consumer loans, such as car loans and student loans. Those things don't help you make more money. You want to pay those off as quickly as possible. But by saving your money that you make from your job and then applying it to consumer loans, that is a very slow and long process. If you can find a way to take your excess money to invest into something that will give you a lot of money, then you can use that money to pay off all of your consumer loans twice as fast sometimes. So how do we know which is the right path to take? What you need to look at is your interest rates on your loans and how much you can get if you invested that money instead. So let me explain. Let's say you have a student loan debt for $20,000 and the interest rate on that loan is 5%. You have to make a minimum payment of $300 a month for you to pay it off. So now, how do we determine, should I pay that off or should I invest the money? If you have an investment opportunity, let's say for example, a rental property, and that rental property is producing for you 20% return every single year, and it's spitting out $400 in cash flow every single month. With that situation, it's a no-brainer that you should take the money that you have to invest into that property and not pay off the $20,000 student loan. The reason being is that $400 of cash flow you get from the rental property can apply to paying off your minimum payments on the student loans. You would actually have $100 left over after paying off your student debt of $300 a month. That is only one part of it. The other part is the rate. The interest rate on your student loan is 5%. The rate of return that you're getting on your property is 20%. You take 20%, subtract the 5%, and that's what leaves you with 15%. Positive rate of return. So you're making money by investing first and paying off that debt later. This is called arbitrage, the difference between what you're making on your rental property or investment versus what you have to pay on your consumer debts. This is what the banks do with your money. When you deposit money in the bank gives you a very small interest rate. And for that small interest rate, they are able to use your money now and lend it out to other people for other things that give them a higher rate than what they're paying you. This arbitrage is what is important to understand when paying off and prioritizing debts. Now, let's say you have another investment opportunity in the stock market that will return for you about 7% every single year. And you have the same situation with your student loan debts. $20,000 to pay off, 5% interest rate, $300 a month minimum payment. In that situation, the interest on your stocks is 7% that you're getting. The debt that you have to pay is 5%. 7 minus 5 is 2. It's a positive arbitrage, positive 2% rate of return, but is it actually worth that risk? Because now in this situation, with every investment, there's a risk. By paying off your debt, it's risk-free and a guaranteed rate of return. When you pay off a 5% loan, you are paying off 5%. In other words, you're making almost 5% on your money, and it's risk-free to pay that off. But when you put your money into the stock market, you now put your money at risk, and you're doing that for an extra 2% than you could get otherwise risk-free. In that situation, I would say no, it's not worth it. Even though it's a positive number and it's higher than the rate of your debt, it's too much of a risk for a small return. The 20% return is significantly larger than a 5% interest rate. So in that situation, it does make sense. So we know how to compare an investment opportunity with a student loan amount. But what if we're doing, let's say, 2 student loans and we want to compare those? One's $20,000 at 5%, the other one's $20,000 at 10%. That's an easy one. Always pay off the higher interest rate first. Now, in general, that's a good piece of advice. Pay off the debt that has the highest interest rate. You're going to save the most amount of money. But there's also a different strategy. When you have multiple loans, which like I did, and they were all very similar in interest rate, and the total amounts due were pretty similar as well, I always went with the debt that had the most amount due, and I paid that one off first because psychologically it was the most rewarding. It reinforced my behavior to continue paying off the debt, and it helps you build momentum so that you want to continue to do that thing over and over again. So I had a $2,000 loan that I had due at maybe a 4% rate. I had another one that was like $2,500 at like a 3% rate. Another one at $4,000 at like a 4% rate. So all of these were pretty close. I just prioritized paying the one that was the lowest balance. So if I had a $2,000 one, a $4,000, a $6,000, I'd pay off the $2,000 loan balance first. And then it would make me feel good. I'd continue the momentum. Let's go to the next one. And I continue to do it that way until all of the balances were paid off in full. The other reason that this is a good strategy is because the larger loan balances, they're harder to pay off. They require a lot more capital, which means more of your personal money. Instead of using that money now and paying it off in full, if you wait a couple of years, naturally, because of inflation, that fixed debt will be cheaper to pay off with your dollars in the future. This is the way that inflation works, and this actually helps you when there's high inflation periods such as right now to wait to pay off fixed rate debt. So there you have it. If you have an investment opportunity that gives you a higher rate of return than your debt interest rate, go with the investment opportunity. If you have 2 different debts with one at a higher interest rate than the other, pay off the higher interest rate debt first. Mathematically, that's always going to make the most sense, but psychologically, you may want to consider the strategy of paying the lower balance first and then working your way up. That's what I have for you guys today. I hope it was of value. Thank you for watching. Remember, subscribe to the channel. Keep going, keep learning, and keep grinding.